Welcome back. So, I know I've been gone a minute. I've been super busy getting everything going with Quad Camp, and I've finally gotten everything kind of at a pace where I'm ready to dive back in and start working on this channel again. And one of the first ideas that I had was about rates. It's one of the most common things that I get asked about, probably second only, if it even is second, to PID tuning. Now, I've already made a video covering PID tuning. I'll make a link in the description if you want to check that one out too. But today I wanted to do a video on rates because people ask me what my rates are all the time, and while I tell them, I usually put in a disclaimer like, hey, these probably aren't for you. These aren't necessarily the best rates for everyone, because I use some wildly uncommon rates. I have really high max degrees per second at the far end of the stick throws, and I have a ton of expo. And so it's got me thinking, number one, if I'm telling other people not to use my rates, why is it that I'm using my rates? So I think I'm way overdue to do a video and to experiment with some different rates. So one of the things that I have trouble with my specific rates is being really smooth on the sticks. I'm able to flip and roll really fast, but trying to have finite control and get really smooth arcs can be a bit difficult when your max degrees per second is in the 1200 degrees per second range. So one of the things I'm going to be working on today is just I'm going to talk to you while I fly and go through, and we're going to experiment with some different rates. But before we can dive into that, we're going to start with this guy right here, and we're going to look at what my rates are on my normal quad, and I'm going to show you exactly how we tweak it. So let's dive right in. Okay, so we're in Betaflight here. I'm going to go on over to PID's page where we can see the spot on my rates. So as you can see here, these are my current rates and everything on my quad. At the max degrees per second over here, we have 1262 degrees per second, and that is a ton of expo on the rates. You can see that right around here, it takes a sharp turn towards the seep side. And I feel like this is probably the biggest issue that I have with my current rate setup is getting into that curve. It's very unpredictable. It's real predictable near center stick, and it's very predictable near the extremes, but I'm only using the extremes when I'm doing snapped rolls or flips. So I need that transition period to be more predictable, and maybe even the far end to be more uniform. So first of all, we're just going to do one flight, stock rates, and I'm going to talk to you about what's happening and what about that I like and what about that I don't like. All right, so let's go do it. All right, anyways, I'm just cruising around the field here. I'm just going to try to fly kind of smooth, do a couple of snap roll type deals, give you guys an idea of what the max roll rate is like. Oh, look, birds. And we're back down. Now, it seems nice and smooth here to me. But I just know that it's great when I get into sticky situations, but when I look at my footage as compared to some others, I feel like it could be smoother, and that it's my rates that are to blame. What I usually fly them at. All right. And let's bring it in and let's try some different things. One of the things I want to first do is try the same max degrees per second, but with almost no expo. Okay, let's take a second and just talk about expo. I keep mentioning it in this video, and so I want to take a minute to explain to you guys exactly what I mean. So our rates, all it is doing is deciding for every little bit of stick input, how many degrees per second change on the quad should that be. So at your max deflection, the quad will rotate at a specific number of degrees per second. What I was flying at the start of this video was around 1260 degrees per second, max deflection. Now, if you have a linear curve, meaning that at center stick you have 0 degrees down here, and at max deflection you would have 1200, or let's just say 1000, right? So at 50% deflection on a linear graph, you would have half of your 1000 degrees per second, or 500 degrees per second. Now, as you add expo, I can't do that very well with my it's gonna, instead of being diagonal like this, it's gonna kind of curve. Now, expo is short for exponential. And if you remember from like algebra way back in the day, if you put expo into the equation for a graph, it starts to curve like this, which means that at center stick, we can have, for every little bit that we move on the stick, have very little happen in terms of how many degrees of per second of change the quad experiences. So for a little bit of movement here, it doesn't change much, but then in the middle, it gets close to that linear feel. And then at the very end, it gets a lot, for every little bit of movement, a lot of change happens. So I tend to like a lot of expo where it's very curvy. Some people like a lot less. Some people like it more linear, but we're gonna experiment today and figure out just how these things can affect your flight performance. Okay, moving on. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is jump in here in Betaflight. We're gonna go over to the PIDs page, and first of all, I'm gonna kill the expo. We're gonna knock that down to 0. So we're still at 1262 degrees per second, but no added expo. Now I'm gonna tweak my super rate and RC rate until I have a near linear, until it's nearly linear on the, instead of all expo-y. You guys know what I mean, come on, okay. Okay, it looks like to get ballpark, I'd rather not go more on the degrees per second. So we have completely linear rates now with 1240 degrees max degrees per second. Now I've got a feeling that this is going to be really hard to control, but I want to show you guys what it would look like if I ran the same max degrees per second with no expo. This is obviously going to an extreme that most people would not do. I'm kind of scared, but let's go see what happens. Okay, I'm up. This is insane. I bet I can still do snap rolls though. Let's try it. Hang on. Whoa! What was going on? Did you see that? It's almost like my tune was awful, but I didn't change anything in the tune. All I did was change the rates. Whoa, whoa.
30 seconds.
Oh my God, this is, okay, so this guy's is not flyable. I'm kind of curious to find out just how linked my rates are to my tune also. I'm not gonna even try to get this over the concrete again. I'm gonna land it in the grass, kind of close by, and just go get it, because that is not working. Okay, that is completely unflyable, I think for various reasons. Linear and 1200 degrees per second, not a good combo. But I hear that a lot of guys do like really linear rates at a lower rate. So let's step it down. You know, we're gonna re-experiment with the linear rates later. First, we're gonna get into some more reasonable territory, all right? Okay, I just wanted to check, and no, I did not accidentally zero out like my iTerm or anything weird. The only thing I changed were the rates, and it changed a lot. Okay, so I want to get into something a little bit more reasonable here. What I'm looking for this time around is somewhere in the 1000 degree per second range with moderate expo. So it should be flyable. Now, one thing to note here, guys, I do like all of my rates to be the same. The yaw, the pitch, the roll. I know I'm once again kind of on my own on this, but I'm going to keep that way because I don't want to change too many things all at once. Oh, that's good. So now I have exactly 1000 degrees per second with a moderate amount of expo. Nothing kind of crazy, all right? So let's see how that flies. Now I have a feeling that this is gonna be nice and predictable. You know, center stick, this is feeling very similar to my normal rates. A little bit of a slow roll. Yeah, see, this is a little bit more touchy near center stick than I like, actually. It's not quite as tame near center stick as I like. So I think that what I'm finding is I might just always need a little bit more on the expo than most people do. With that flight, the one thing that I noticed was I just didn't have as much expo as I particularly like. It just made it feel too twitchy in the center stick. I don't know if that's going to translate in the video or if you'll be able to see it on my thumbs on the stick cam, but for me, it wasn't enough expo. So I really want to try and give like 1,000 degree per second ballpark a go, but I want to do it on my terms with enough expo. So we're going to bump up we're going to tweak the RC rate and super rate a little bit in order to get it a little closer to my desired amount of expo. Okay, so now we once again have 1,000 degrees per second, but it's a much more expo-y curve on my rates. So I'm gonna give that a go, see what I think, and then we're ultimately gonna bring it all the way down to around the 800 ballpark, and maybe even try a little bit of a linear curve in that 800 degree per second range. But first, 1,000 degrees per second with plenty of expo. I'm feeling this might actually end up being what I end up preferring when it's all said and done. Oh yeah, that center stick feel is very nice right here. I don't know if you can see on the stick cam, but I'm able to bring my thumbs well out of center. Okay. I need a chest cam. This is not comfortable. Okay. Coming around. It still feels a little bit touchy center stick. I don't know if this is just in my head or if this is because I had such extreme expo in the past. But it definitely feels a little bit too touchy center stick. I like the resolution everywhere else though. Like around mid stick where I'm trying to do like floaty stuff like this. That is really good resolution. But that like very near center stick is just a little too much for me. All right, so at 1,000 degrees per second and a lot of expo, I am. It's still a little too touchy center stick. I think I might like. I don't feel like I'm missing a lot at the snappier ends. So maybe if I get even more expo to where it's something that I'm used to, I will like that 1,000 degrees per second. You know what, let's do one more flight at 1,000 degrees per second before we go down to 800. Okay, so this is gonna be the last run that I do at the 1,000 degree per second. I keep thinking that it's gonna be the last. We're gonna go wait a minute, I could just add some expo in. What if I do that? So I've added in some expo. We're gonna give it a shot at, well, like this. We got more expo, same thing, 1,000 degrees per second, go. Oh yeah, center stick has got a lot of feel now. I'm liking the feel of that. Still pretty good on the max. Very smooth. I have a lot of resolution. Huh. What do you guys think? So 1,000 degrees per second, lots of expo. I didn't have a whole lot to say. It feels really good in the center stick and the mid stick section. And the full deflection, flips and rolls, like my snap, I feel like the rolls are kind of on the slow side, but I almost never do snap rolls. And I feel like my snap flips in the past have almost been too fast, like you couldn't see it at all. So I may end up sticking with these rates right here as they are and kind of tweaking from there. But before we commit to that, we're gonna go down to the 800 degrees per second range and check out linear rates in that range. All right. Okay, so what I've built up now is about 800 degrees per second. We're running 1 on the RC rate, 0.75 on super rate, and that's giving me 800 degrees per second with a pretty moderate amount of expo in there. Let's go check it out, see how it flies. All right, center stick feels, it's a little bit touchier than what I just had. Oh wow, that's not a whole lot on the fast side. This is not ideal for me. It's a little with the expo that I currently have it set at, it's too sensitive in the center to mid stick. It feels like I'm swimming around. Yeah, it's just different. It feels different. Everything about it is not stingy. I can fly it. I just don't necessarily like this. It feels wonky. So with the 800 degrees per second and kind of a medium amount of expo, it just felt swimmy. I don't know how to, that's such a weird word, but I don't know how to better describe it. Let's take a shot at 0 expo. Just completely linear. Okay. So I have sorted out just what to do for 804 degrees per second, completely linear rates, and we're gonna see how terrifying this is. All right. Hello. Dude. Okay. There is something in beta flight that makes this thing, that is not normal.
Doing the crazy flip.
It's like wonky all over the sky. Oh God, about to kill us. Okay, I have a theory that this is just a bug in beta flight because the rates should not affect the way that it flies, but it's almost like there's no air mode, or it's not stable. It like flutters all over the sky when I make it with completely linear rates. So what I've done is put 0.01 super rate and 2.13 on the RC rate, and I want to see if it behaves and flies like I would now expect it to, or if it still flutters all over the sky. Either way, I now would recommend you never run 0 super rate. Let's go check it out. All right, let's see if this is a bug or not. Okay. Yeah. So it's still really twitchy and hard to control, but that like fluttering is gone. That's so weird. So on Betaflight, if you run 0 or super rate, it has some effect, almost like it's on air mode or something. It's got air mode off or something. I don't know what that is. Wasn't expecting to find anything like that, but now we know. All right, so linear rates, let's dive the building once. Whoa. Yeah, linear rates are scary.
30.
There's no way to describe it other than that. Here's center stick, I'm like twitchy as hell. And my rolls and flips are not fast at all. Okay, I do not recommend doing linear rates at all. All right, so getting in here, pit tuning. I want to try 800 degrees per second with a ton of expo. So let's get like 1 and 1 is 3. Okay, that is 800 degrees per second with a good bit of expo in there for feel. Wow, center stick is just dead. I mean, if you want to be silky smooth, this might be the rates for you. Yeah, proximity, I'm gonna just call it right now. There's no way I could get used to that for proximity. I need to be able to get snappy and get out of sticky situations. 800 is just too low for that. But for them buttery smoothness, it is stupidly smooth. Yeah, I am digging the 800 degree per second. Just the amount of smoothness. All right, so new goal for my rates is to find a sweet spot at 1,000 degrees per second that has this kind of buttery smoothness. We're not done yet, guys. I'm coming into land. So now I'm gonna go back to the rates that I had earlier and try to just give them a ton more expo. Okay, so I've kind of tweaked it a little bit in order to get the same degrees per second and a similar curve and a lot more expo curve without it being too weird. So what we have here is we got 0.9, 0.82, and 0.2 on the on my rates, giving me 1,000 degrees per second and a very expo curve. Let's see how that feels. What happened? Oh my God, it's so buttery smooth there. There's good old Mike and Tidwell, quads and trees. Oh man, this is it. This is my new setup. These are my new rates. I don't know what to tell you guys. So I think that I had just a little bit too much max degrees per second in the past, and and I'm down, and just not quite enough ability to smooth that out through expo and the other without it getting wonky at some point on the sticks where it didn't feel predictable. It would be predictable near center stick and predictable near extremes, but somewhere in the middle it made a transition that was always really hard for me to get a feel for what to expect in the quad, and I would end up doing things that were unintentional in the video that I wasn't a fan of. So just, you know what, the biggest takeaway that I want you guys to have from this video is that to get into the configurator and experiment, try things out. You might find that you like something new, you might not, but a lot of people are too afraid to try something outside of the box for fear that, I don't know what they're afraid of. What's the worst thing that can happen if you screw something up too bad? You crash. Guess what is gonna happen to you over and over and over again, even if you do everything right? You're gonna crash. So there is literally no downside to experimenting. Get in there and test these things out, because at the end of the day, you're gonna learn something one way or another, and you're probably gonna crash, and it's probably not even gonna be because of something that you tweaked. It's just gonna happen. So go test things. But what I'm gonna do for now is I've got some fresh packs that I'm gonna cycle through and yeah, go fly with my new rates and see what I think. All right, guys, and with that, we're gonna call it a day. Thank you for joining me for this. I hope you learned something. Check out quadcamp.com for all the upcoming quad camp dates. We got Houston, we got Knoxville. Yeah, click the like button, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what your rates are and what you think I did wrong and should do in my follow-up video on rates, because I'm sure a lot of people are gonna disagree with how I tested and maybe tell me that I should have tried this or tried that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video. Who knows? Either way, like, subscribe, comment, come back. We'll see you next time. Later.
Take me out like